In this blog, I will be demonstrating how Microsoft Copilot Studio can be used to quickly create a student-facing AI agent. There is, of course, a lot to this platform and AI in general, but my focus is going to be more on how lay users can build an AI agent, as well as a discussion of the benefits and limitations of using an AI chatbot as a place for students to get their information. To start, let's define what we mean by a custom agent. So unlike a general AI chatbot like Copilot or ChatGPT, a custom agent is designed to serve one purpose, and it's usually trained on specific knowledge sources unavailable to other AIs. Similarly, we can have more control over how this AI agent behaves, tailored for its specific purpose. Now, given this broad definition, we can perhaps envisage lots of uses of custom agents in higher education. One such use being as a means of making information more accessible to our students. As a unit director, I'm specifically interested in whether an agent can be built to answer student questions on their poster and presentation coursework. So in this video, I build an agent in Copilot Studio using the documents that we provide the students, briefing them on their coursework. In the subsequent entries of this blog, I then test the agent with some test queries and discuss how useful it might be for the average educator looking to reduce their workload. At this point, a little warning. If you are looking to use AI software for any purpose within higher education, you're likely going to have to consider things such as data protection, privacy, licensing restrictions, and the wider potential for misuse. At the University of Bristol, we discuss our AI projects with our IT business partners before we even get started to ensure that these risks are being mitigated. Now for this blog, I'm just demonstrating some of the pedagogical issues around using agents, but please be warned that you must be thoughtful about these wider issues prior to beginning your own project. You can sign up for a trial license on Microsoft Copilot Studio's webpage here. So once registered, you can access the Copilot Studio splash page. Now there are numerous ways to start creating an agent, but I'm just going to use the Create button on the left here. Microsoft provides a number of templates. However, I'm interested in creating a new agent from scratch. And for this, Copilot Studio uses generative AI in a chatbot format, where you prompt and what you would like your agent to do using natural language. Like most AI, the quality of your prompt is key to getting a good outcome. So in general, try to articulate your request clearly and in detail. To summarize my prompt here, I'm asking Copilot Studio to create an agent that answers student queries on the more logistical aspects of an assessment. The agent should be professional, clear and concise, of course, but it must also only answer using the information that I provide. Otherwise, if an answer isn't in this provided information, the agent should direct the user to a human. Given your prompt, Copilot Studio will rewrite your request as a series of instructions for the agent, which appear here on the right. It will also ask some clarifying questions, usually beginning with a suggestion for an agent name. Now you can provide more information at this point if you wish, or you can skip. You can always make changes later. Completing or skipping this chatbot stage takes you to the configuration options for your agent. Here we can see the instructions that Copilot Studio has generated from our initial prompt, but also some other options that we're going to revisit shortly. For now, I'm just going to press Create to get my agent created. Once created, we have more options available to us. At the top of the window, we have lots of tabs that provide further settings to customize and deploy our agent, and starting with the Overview tab, we again see our general instructions, which we can edit directly. We also see an orchestration option, and simply put, this is a setting that allows the agent to coordinate all of the different settings in order to provide the most relevant outcome to the user. It's on by default, and we leave it like that. We also see the AI model that our agent uses, which in this case is GPT-4o. Importantly for us, there is a section on adding additional knowledge sources for our agent to use. Opening this up allows us to link to public websites, as well as other databases, including SharePoint. More usefully, for our agent, we want to upload discrete documents. Copilot Studio recognizes a variety of file formats, and conveniently for us, this includes PDFs, so we can upload the PDFs of information that we already provide to our students for this assessment, and the agent will be able to interpret them. Now, Copilot Studio actually needs to process these documents first, so that they can be understood by the agent. This is a process called vectorization, and it can take a few minutes depending on the size of your documents. So while it's doing this, we're going to take a quick look at some other important settings. First, we see below the knowledge, there's an option for Copilot to access public websites. So for our agent, we told it not to access the internet to find answers to queries, so this is switched off. However, if we pop into the settings page in the top right, we see some more options relating to knowledge sources. At the bottom, there's a repeat of whether an agent can use information from the web, which is disabled, but above that, there is a Use General Knowledge option. This relates to the information that the generative AI was trained on, and it can include a surprising amount of irrelevant information that we don't want popping up in our agent's answers. Even though we prompted our agent to only use information from our knowledge sources, this feature is on by default, and for sensible answers on our assessment, we have to turn it off. So saving the changes to these settings, I return to the main page. Now, one feature that would be really useful for a student-facing agent is for the AI to recognize user prompts that are suggestive of student distress, and to then provide direction to support services. To do this, we're going to use Copilot Studio's Topics feature. Now, topics are a way of controlling how an agent behaves given some specific input or state. There are lots of topics already built in by default, like what should happen when a user says hello and goodbye, as well as some more complicated ones relating to the system. For us, let's add a topic that triggers when a user prompt suggests distress. We press the Add Topic button and we have two options. Again, there's a generative AI tool that lets us tell Copilot what we want the topic to do in natural language. To be honest, this didn't work particularly well when I tried it. Instead, I'll create a topic from blank. The syntax that I've found works well is this tool can handle queries like these. I then provide a list of words that infer distress, so for example words like stressed, scared and worried, and the AI doesn't just match these words from the prompts, it can recognize context and intent through this so-called semantic searching. And as you will see later in this blog, this topic triggers with a broad range of user inputs. Once triggered, I tell the topic to post a message. In this case, some specific text providing some reassurance and direction to support. I can actually follow up with multiple messages to split a large amount of information. I then save this topic with a suitable name and it becomes part of my agent. Now this is just a simple example, however topics can be used to create very sophisticated behavior. For example, like asking the user questions, implementing logic, and also interfacing with other agents. Now if we return to the Knowledge tab of our agent, we can see that our documents have finished vectorization. They can now be interpreted by the agent. We can actually now test how our agent is going to behave with responses in this test chat dialog. However, we can also publish our agent, which allows us to see what an agent might look like to a student user. We are using the trial version of Copilot Studio, so the way that we can deploy our agents is limited in this version. I will be demonstrating the agent using the demo website function, which allows us to see what a student user might see if we deployed the agent as a website. We can add a welcome message and then copy a link to the test agent. Hopefully it goes without saying that you should be very careful about how you share an agent. Any knowledge available to the agent is also available to users who have a link to that agent. For our example, we are simply demonstrating and testing an agent that has no sensitive information, but I would strongly advise that you do not publish agents with access to any personal information. Our final task is to press the Publish button. Now note that whenever you make changes to your agent, you will have to republish in order to update the test web page. Pasting our test website link into a browser takes us to our agent and we can start asking it questions. And getting to know our bot and determining that it is behaving as we expect is crucial, especially for student-facing purposes. It's also the most time-consuming part of agent creation. Here, I ask it some relatively easy questions. When I ask what the deadline is for the assessment, it returns a reasonable answer and also refers back to the original document. What's really nice is that when I tell the agent I'm worried, the topic function correctly activates and refers me to well-being support. Finally, a question that I get a lot from students for this assessment is where they ask what drug they should do their presentation on. Again, a reasonable answer that uses the information out of the knowledge we provide. So on the face of it, it looks like an easy win. We can easily set up an agent that could save lots of time answering student queries. And more importantly, it could potentially provide an interface that is more accessible to some students. However, in the rest of my blog, I evaluate our agent's behaviour in a bit more detail. And in particular, I talk about its limitations, our responsibilities as educators, and how chatbots like this may not be the shortcut to productivity that we hope in many cases.